Bonjour, Henry Buffalo. We're at,
Bonjour.
we're at the Bad River Reserve. We're celebrating 25 years of Great Lakes Indian Fish and Game Commission. And on a deeper level, we're celebrating treaty rights. And you spoke yesterday about some of those fruits of treaty rights. When you think about the struggle that's been going on for more than a century for these treaty rights, what stands out for you?
I think what stands out for me is just the tenacity of not only our contemporary folks who understood and were told forever that there was these treaty rights that existed, and that tribal members could not be prohibited from exercising those rights to hunt, fish, and gather. In spite of the 50 to 75 years of illegal state enforcement against that, the people kept doing that. And I think that's really reflective in general of the people that came before us in our history. And one of the people that I can think of immediately is my great-great-great-grandfather, Mushkwade Bijiki, or Chief Buffalo as he's known. And the journey that he took back in 1850. Can you imagine what this land looked like in 1850? When they decided that they were going to find out why it is that the United States all of a sudden decided that they were going to remove the Chippewa from western Michigan, northern Wisconsin, and northeastern Minnesota onto some god-awful place in western Minnesota. And it was that tenacity, that journey that he took by canoe, by train, all the way to Washington, D.C. to ask the president why it was that they decided to sign that removal order. Prior to leaving, they had a major council right here on Madeline Island that talked about whether or not any of the tribes, any of the bands, anybody had knowledge of any violations of the previous treaties. Nobody had them. And so this journey was a part of trying to set that straight. And I think the result of that brought together the 1854 treaty, but it also brought together the fact that it set up reservations that became the permanent homelands here in this land for the Ojibwe that are here today. And this is the tenacity that they showed back in the 1800s. This is the forethought they had, the vision they had to take care of us here today. And I think part of that vision is reflected in the 25 years of work that has occurred with the Great Lakes Indian Fishing Commission here.
There's an image that was circulating in your great-great-grandfather's time. It's a pictograph, another way of communicating, and it shows the 7 clan animals, and their hearts and their minds are connected, and they're near the Great Lake, which we're just a few miles inland from, and below them are 4 smaller lakes. What do those 4 smaller lakes represent?
I believe the 4 smaller lakes, I'm not recalling that right now.
Well, it's a picture of the wild rice lakes.
Oh yes, the wild rice lakes. Yes.
And the significance of those wild rice lakes to the Anishinaabe. We've been feasting here for a couple of days. There's been deer meat and fish and manoman. The importance of that wild rice to the survival of the people. Tell us about that.
Well, our presence here in this land today is a result of our ancestors' search for the proper place to stay and reside, a place that they would be able to take care of themselves at, subsistent. And at the time, there was a great Migas shell that we were following. And the story was that once that this shell would bring us to the place where food grows upon the water. And this is how we came to this area here in western Lake Superior, and for which it has become so important to the Ojibwe people.
As industrial society continues to expand and we see more coal burning, we see more impacts on the fish and on the wild rice, what are the challenges we face over the next 25 years, and what can we do about it?
I believe that environmental degradation is the greatest threat to our resources that we have ever known. And it is this degradation that is occurring because of not so much the industrialization, but the next step after that. And the use of these types of energies in our environment is creating there's a critical mass that's being created by placing all of this stuff into our environment, and I think we're feeling it right now. Eventually, I hope that the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission will indeed play an important role in finding solutions to ease up the pressure that currently exists on the environment and the habitat and everything else that helps these resources exist.
Henry Buffalo, is there anything you'd like to add?
Oh, the Great Lakes Indian Fish Commission has been around for 25 years, and there have been three executive administrators, and the fourth is Jim Zorn today. And although I helped found it and get it operated, I think one of the greatest transitions that occurred in this process is when the third executive administrator, Jim Schlender, after several years of holding that position and being unsettled about it, figured out that one of the pieces that was missing and that he introduced into this organization that made it relative to Chippewa people is that the work of this organization had to have some relevance to the culture and the language in which it operated. And Jim is the one who infused that, and I think part of the reason this is an intertribal organization. Not all these tribes don't always agree all the time. The tribal governments don't always agree all the time. But this is one organization, I think, that because of what Jim had done, not only has a strong foundation upon which it was built, is strong today, but I believe will be strong in the future because of his forethought to infuse the organization with a purpose, to create the purpose, so that all those who work for it, both Indian and non-Indian, have a renewed sense of participation in the work of the organization.
This is Nick Vanderpine and Henry Buffalo on the Bad River Reserve in northwestern Wisconsin for Indian Country TV. Miigwech.
Miigwech.